Hi, my name's Simon, and welcome to Simon Heals. This channel is really my sharing my own healing journey, and in the hope that it really kind of helps you with your healing journeys. So today, I've just been doing a couple of Reiki healing sessions here in my healing room in Koh Samui in Thailand, um, at my healing center, which is called Anahata. Um, and when I start a Reiki session with a client, oftentimes there will be some kind of message that comes through me that I feel that I need to deliver to the client. And there was a message that came through earlier for a client that I felt would be valuable to share with everyone. I mean, it's kind of very relevant for all of us. When these messages come through me, it's very much like a channeled message. So I'm not really thinking. Now that I'm recording this video, I'm more kind of recalling what I said. So I really hope that I'm able to capture what I said. I'll try and allow that to kind of allow myself now to drop down more into that state that I'm in when I'm practicing Reiki, and that should allow that message to come through, or whatever other message is meant to come through to share with you today. So the message really is about just how powerful and magnificent we are as beings. If you're listening to me on this channel, and you resonate with the things that I talk about, you probably already have a sense of this and are starting to get a sense of just how powerful you are. But we really are, and our thoughts, our conscious thoughts and intentions are literally creating the reality that we experience moment to moment in a very, very literal way. Now, the higher our personal frequency and vibration is, then the more directly that manifestation corresponds to the thoughts that we have, and the more quickly that happens as well. So I think in my last video I touched upon this, that the kind of denser the energy, the more time elapses between the thought and the manifestation of that thought, but the higher the vibration. So as we get into higher frequencies and into higher dimensions, then that time becomes shorter and shorter until we get into sixth dimension, where the thought and the manifestation are instantaneous. And I know that through meditation, where I've experienced different dimensions. And there's much in our lives in this third dimension, particularly in the world that we've created, in the world of men, that really keeps us disconnected from our consciousness and our conscious thoughts, and being conscious creators with our thoughts and our consciousness. And I'm thinking about things such as media, for example, which is very much, if we're not very careful, can really take us into lower frequencies of fear. And I'm thinking of food. A lot of what we consume and call food isn't really natural food for us, and again it brings our vibration down, and and substances that, although they may be socially acceptable, such as alcohol, for example, and recreational drugs, and pornography, that's a big one, I know, for people these days. Also, all these things are kind of bringing our vibration down. So what does that mean? How does that affect our health? And this was the message I think that I really wanted to share with you today. And this is when we get into talking about what we might refer to as parasites and entities. Now, these are essentially lower vibrational beings. So we experience we could call it a range of frequencies, a spectrum of vibrational energy. And at the higher end of that spectrum, and I've touched on this before, but the higher end of that spectrum, where we get into frequencies of what we experience as love and joy, etc., then our frequency is starting to get closer to beings that exist in higher frequencies, such as angelic beings, for example. And this is why when we're in a high frequency, then we start to become more likely to maybe see angels, hear angels, and really have a more tangible experience of relating to angels and those higher vibrational beings. And some people experience these as ETs, extraterrestrials. That's not my experience. I don't actually have an understanding or belief of what we could call aliens and extraterrestrials, but I'll probably talk about that more in another video. And then at that lower end of the spectrum, and this is where emotionally we're more in lower frequency emotions, from anger down into shame and guilt, fear, etc. Then there are also beings at that lower end of the spectrum and beneath that. And this is where we start getting into what we could think of as more malevolent beings and entities. And different cultures have different words to describe these. We have, demons and jinns and ghosts and poltergeists and, these kind of words. But I believe that they're all really referring to similar energies. Now, I want to point out that these energies, both at the higher end of the spectrum, which is your kind of angelics, and at the lower end of the spectrum, which is more like your demons and jinns, they're not necessarily embodied. They're not necessarily able to exist within our spectrum of energy, which is the third dimension, which is the physical world. They may overlap occasionally with these frequencies, which may make them visible or accessible to people that are either at that higher end of the spectrum that can connect with the angels, or at the lower end of the spectrum that will start to connect with the, those kind of lower frequency energies. So really I wanted to talk about these lower frequency energies. So when we expose ourselves to those things that are offered to us that can lower our frequency, like media, the wrong foods, alcohol, drugs, pornography, etc., then that brings our vibration down. And it means that those lower frequency beings, those entities, those demons, those jinns, those poltergeists, those ghosts and ghouls, etc., they are able to access our energy. And this is what they do. They literally will feed off our energy. So going back to what I was saying right at the beginning about how magnificent we are, how, just absolutely incredible we are. We are fractals of source energy. So source energy is also what, some people refer to as God or Allah, or these days words like universe, the divine. Traditional cultures may use words like, great spirit, father spirit, those kind of words. Really, this is the source of all energy. And we are fractals of it. And a fractal is a fragment that contains all the information of the whole. So if you look at fractal graphics and geometry, as we zoom in, we still see the same repeating patterns, but at a smaller scale. Or as we zoom out, we see the same patterns, but getting larger and larger. So this kind of visualizes fractals. But in a way, a hologram is a fractal. So with a holographic image. So with a holographic image, then the whole image is available in every part of the image. So we are fractals of source, which means all the information of source is within each and every one of us. Now, another way of saying that is each and every one of us is a part of God. And that doesn't mean that we're less than God. It doesn't mean that you and I are God in the totality of what God is or what source energy is, but all the information of source of God is within each and every one of us. That means all the abilities, all the power. And an analogy that is often used by spiritual teachers is the drop to the ocean, or the wave to the ocean, the relationship between those two. So that in every drop of the ocean is all the information of the whole ocean and all the consciousness of the whole ocean. And if you've studied water at all, then you'll know that is absolutely true. And that's why homeopathy is such a powerful healing approach to healing, and that's why it works. So we are source energy. each and every one of us. Now, these lower vibrational beings are not source energy. They're not connected to source. So they are what we may call an artificial intelligence. I talked about this a little bit in my last video. So, you know, we've got that kind of AI or archonic energy or life forms that are disconnected from source, and they need to literally feed off us for energy, so they don't have that direct connection, so they have to get that energy via another source. And that's why personally I am so not into eating animal flesh, because that's what we're doing. If we consume animal flesh, we are basically taking the energy that is embodied in that animal, and we don't need to. It's a very low frequency, low level consciousness way of feeding ourselves. When we can eat a fruit, for example, that is really directly connected to source energy and to sunlight, and it's a direct store of sunlight. And then if we take that further, then we don't actually need to consume anything physical, because we just connect directly with that energy. And I've noticed myself, as I've spiritually matured and evolved and become more connected, more consciously connected to source, the less that I need to actually physically consume. So you probably noticed that I'm very thin, and that's why. I mean, there was a time when I was kind of quite a big guy and used to really enjoy eating a lot and consuming. And really, without going off on too much of a tangent there, that's about our kind of inherent belief that we're not good enough, that we need to consume something that exists externally to make ourselves enough. So whether that consumption is through food and substances, or whether it's the consumption of products, believing that we need to own stuff to be good enough. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same level of consciousness of that we need to consume an animal to be strong enough. We don't. So where was I? Yeah, just so kind of back to entities and these kind of lower frequency entities. So they in the same way that we believe, some of us believe that we need to consume an animal for energy, they need to consume our energy to get their energy. And then this is where we get into different degrees of parasites and possessions. And so when we lower our vibration through these kind of unhealthy lifestyle choices, it makes us a more vibrational match to these lower frequency beings, entities. It allows them in, and then they can start to feed off us. So when someone comes to me for healing, whether that be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual healing. Sorry, I've got a really dry throat today. Then invariably there's some level of hosting parasites, whether those are parasites that have manifested in the physical realm, such as worms and flukes and these kind of things, or more the kind of spiritual parasites that I've been referring to. Then someone is hosting parasites. Invariably, it will be both. So what we're doing in the healing session, and this is where a practice like Reiki comes in, is we're really connecting with source energy, raising the vibration, raising the frequency, so that these lower frequency beings, or whether they be physical parasites or energetic parasites or entities, they can no longer really survive in your higher frequency. And, you know, as simple as that it sounds, that is really what's happening in the healing session. And then I work with a modality such as theta healing, either separately or within the Reiki session, to communicate with that being, to really, you know, let it know that it is not wanted, it's not welcome, and that it needs to go. Sometimes these can be disembodied souls that have really, you know, at the point of death, which is really just a transition, they kind of get lost, or they choose they don't want to leave here. Maybe they want to stay to be with loved ones. Maybe they've got addictions to the third dimension. And they don't want to leave, and then they're disembodied, and then they will literally attach themselves to someone who, you know, to a physical being such as, you know, ourselves, to really just to kind of like carry their spirit, carry their souls, or as I say, it can be these non-human lower frequency beings that are, again, kind of piggybacking, if you want, our energies and our bodies. And this really kind of makes us sick. So once we communicate with these and give them the permission to leave, or sometimes we need to be a little bit more forceful with our communication, and they're gone, then that disease will go also. And the effects of that can be absolutely immediate, you know, so someone can really leave the session feeling so much lighter, so much more positive, because these energies, they get into the mind. That is oftentimes the first place where we experience them, as really kind of negative thoughts, really kind of low vibrational thought forms, such as, you know, kind of doubt or fear. And again, these I believe are really weaponized against us. We're kind of brought. So I'm playing with my ear because there's some kind of mosquito or something. Talking of parasites, it was interesting. A few years ago, I was doing a liver cleanse. So really purging any parasites in the body, particularly in the liver. And I was riding my scooter into the centre here, and because I was doing this cleanse, and particularly the liver cleanse, I was in this really kind of gnarly emotional state as I was kind of releasing all this stuff, and this bee just flew up my pants and stung me. And I've been living here for years, that's never happened, you know, and there's bees around all over the place. So my vibration had resonated, had attracted this bee, you know. So even now I'm talking about parasites, and I've got this mosquito or whatever it is, it just won't leave me alone. Because to some degree talking about that is bringing me into that vibration. So be super vigilant and observant of, you know, that what, you know, if you've got things, so any kind of animals or bugs or insects that are around you, they're really resonating with your frequency. You know, by the same account, I can sit on the beach meditating, thinking that I'm alone, and I'll finish the meditation and there'll be half a dozen dogs sitting next to me, because dogs are such kind of loving and calm, generally anyway, loving and 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 calm, beautiful beings, and then they resonate with that frequency of the meditation. And I believe this is where the shamanic understanding of animals and animal totems comes in. So how the animals are giving us messages. So, you know, if you're seeing a certain kind of animal around, then it's resonating with your frequency. So it's telling you something about yourself. So that's a whole other kind of subject and area, which I won't get into now. So I'm kind of about 25 minutes or so into this video, which is probably long enough. So I think I've kind of shared the main message. And then I think I just wanted to leave off today with really the importance and the value of consciously clearing these entities. And this is where practices like smudging with sage or Palo Santo comes in, using incense sticks, sprays like natural sprays, which you can get hold of on the internet, or you can make yourself, sprays that, you know, are infused with essential oils. Essential oils themselves are an excellent way to raise our vibration. Crystals, having crystals around, or going to see someone like myself, just to kind of like cleanse your energy body and dispel any entities or parasites that you're hosting. So if that's something that you'd like to do with myself, then there should be a link below, or an email address anyway, below, that you can contact me directly. And a couple of you have already started to do that. So I really appreciate that. I love the healing work that I offer. It really is my kind of purpose in life. So if my message resonates with you, and you feel that you would benefit from some healing, or you'd just like to kind of reach out and connect, then please do drop me an email, and we can either continue the conversation via email or arrange a call. So thank you very much for your presence and for tuning in. And I look forward to the next time. Namaste. Thank you.